Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
And you are officially tuned into the GG Dispatch. Each week on Tuesday, bright and early, we consolidate the week's biggest headlines in gaming news. Whether you're listening in on your commute, during your workout, or you just have us on in the background, we want to thank you for listening in. Speaking of thanks, another thank you to the kind folks at Audio-Technica for providing the microphones that both Alan and I are using, the AT2020 USB-X. Whether you're just starting out on your content creator journey or you're a seasoned pro, Audio-Technica has the products for you. So this is an interesting episode. Just as a heads up, this is going to be kind of like a combo of last week's recording and this week's, because as we were getting near the end of our recording session, Alan had a power outage, and so we weren't able to finish our recording. But we definitely wanted to share our thoughts on Game Fest and announcements and all the other good stuff. So we'll kind of combine that conversation with this one so y'all can enjoy that. So without further ado, here's a recording from June 10th, 2024. Let's just get into it. Let's just dive right in, because there has been showcase after showcase all weekend long. People are getting upset on the internet, of course, because that's just how we are as gamers. But starting...
Be cool, gamers. Be cool.
Be cool, gamers. Be chill. We got 5 stories. It's really 100 stories, but we're boiling it down to 5. So starting with Xbox Game Showcase 2024, sticks the landing. And so this is, we had the Xbox Showcase, and really, I'm going to borrow from our own article in the Geekly Grind. To say that today's showcase had a lot writing on it would be quite the understatement. After the last few weeks of bad press for Xbox, from studio closures to shifting exclusivity strategies and more, many wondered if today's showcase would be able to right the ship. At this point, I'm feeling pretty confident, though while some adjustments are yet to be made, there are definitely some big moves in the right direction. The Xbox Game Showcase 2024 was a thrilling event for gamers, promising a diverse lineup of titles from Activision, Bethesda, Blizzard, Xbox Game Studios, and numerous partners. There were quite a few kind of high-level highlights. Gears of War E-Day, which takes us back to the pivotal Emergence Day, which is 14 years before the original game. Doom, The Dark Ages, is a prequel to Doom and introduces a dark fantasy setting where the unstoppable Doomslayer battles demonic hordes. There's State of Decay 3, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We got to take a look at Perfect Dark, South of Midnight. They discussed Starfield Shattered Space. We looked at World of Warcraft, The War Within. We saw Assassin's Creed Shadows. We saw more of Dragon Age, which recently was renamed from Drakengard to the Veilguard. Don't know if I like the title, but they showed off a trailer, kind of a sub-story here. They showed off a trailer, and people were like, oh my god, they changed Dragon Age. It doesn't look good. And then they showed more gameplay today, and people were like, oh, okay, it's fine. Just because apparently... they don't know how to market Dragon Age. It's a tale as old as time. But if you go and look, if you were initially concerned about Dragon Age, the Veilguard, upon seeing that initial trailer, make sure you've seen the latest gameplay trailer as of Monday the 10th. And I think you'll feel better. We also got Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, probably one of my favorite Metal Gears ever. Total standout hit, like a total blindside, cannot believe that this came out of nowhere. Claire Obscure Expedition 33, a reactive turn-based RPG set in a surreal world inspired by France's La Belle Époque. Players will embark on a quest to end the paintress's cycle of death, battling deadly adversaries and befriending fabled creatures. So this game took Twitter by storm. People are still talking about it. So
it was one of my faves.
Yeah, I mean it has such a great theme. It carried a lot of weight to the narrative, and just in general looked awesome. The music,
art style, just that world in general.
Yeah. It looked super cool. And then of course when they showed off the gameplay, so it is turn based, but the peaks of gameplay that we saw got people really excited, especially folks who have been waiting on the Legend of Dragoon remake because
I
there's
was about to say,
yeah,
which has massive Legend of Dragoon vibes.
yeah, 100%. And a lot of the creators and developers on this game, they cite, Legend of Dragoon, a lot of those classic RPGs as inspirations, and so not terribly surprised by that, but
Yeah,
still,
that checks out. That checks out.
combat looks fantastic. Looks like it has like timed chain kind of combo system going on, and so yeah, great. Start the very our very own Ben Starr of Final Fantasy 16 fame is lending his voice talents to the game as well. So a lot of people picked up on that as well. But yeah, Clair Obscura Expedition 33 is going to be coming day and date on Game Pass in
Hell yes.
October 2025. So
Come
I
on.
know. We still got a ways to go, but plenty of hype to build in the meantime. I'm hoping that by the time PAX comes around, we get like some early demos. We can get our hands on it. That'd be so cool. But anyway, really struck by that one. Atomfall, an open world survival action game inspired by a real world nuclear disaster. Winter Burrow, a cozy woodland survival game where players, as a tiny mouse, search for their lost auntie and restore their childhood burrow. They also discussed some new Xbox hardware. So there will be a 2 terabyte special edition in Galaxy Black. There will be some different all digital models of the Series S, etc. That'll be coming later this year. And then it continued with more games, more titles, more. But of course, kind of front and center stage was Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So it's set in the early 90s and follows a mind-bending narrative where players must go rogue. It introduces innovations like Omni Movement, classic prestige, and round-based zombies. And it launches on October 25th, available on various platforms and on day one with Game Pass as well. So I admittedly am not a huge first-person shooter person. So Alan, like, what were your thoughts on seeing the newest Call of Duty? Like, is this something that excites you, or?
I mean, it feels like Call of Duty. I'm really happy that's coming to Game Pass, so I can just play it day and date without having to pay extra, having to buy like a full price copy. But nothing about it quite made me go like, oh man, this is the return of Call of Duty, because it's been a bit down in recent times. So it's been a bit since we've had like a legitimately just dope ass single player campaign. And on the multiplayer side, I have to say this game is nothing more than just the greatest love letter to the worst person that you know. Because the fact that now you can just run side to side, back at full speed, no slower than you would running forward, and they got the little thing where you jump dive and then just start spinning 360 and popping off. Like, Jesus, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm going to hate everyone. That is my rant.
The the lobbies are going to be full of so many angry people. It's going to give 360 no scopes a new lease on life.
These 10-year-olds are going to be living large online.
Go get a job. Anyway, I don't have a lot of vested interest in the franchise myself. I maybe some folks saw the Omni Movement stuff and they were like, "Oh, that looks really cool." If so, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. Alan might be pissed, but I'm happy for you.
For sure, I'll check out the campaign. But like the multiplayer, probably go in and like rage quit after one match.
Yeah, for sure. That's my life in first person shooters as well. We got Age of Mythology Retold, which combines the best elements of the original game with modern real-time strategy design. And it's coming pretty soon, September 4th, 2024. So if you're a friend of Age of Mythology, there will be a new tale for you. We also have Avowed, which takes players to the uncharted wilds of the living lands where they must stop the Dream Scourge. The trailer introduced Giada, one of the game's companions, and highlights the perilous journey ahead. The game is releasing, I believe they came out with the date, it was November 24th, 2024. So it'll be out in November, and it should be great. Of course, it took a lot of people by surprise with the cover art. Like, people love the art for this game, like the skeleton with like the flowers all over it and stuff. And the social media manager even afterwards was like, "Hey, do you want our merch? Go get it." And people are like, "Yay!" Like shirts, bags, like all this stuff, just because the cover art looks so cool. So If that's appealing to you and you really like Avowed's cover art, there's merch for you. Go find it. And then another big one was Fable. Latest Fable trailer, which features Humphrey, a once great hero forced out of retirement, developed in collaboration with Eidos Montreal. It promises a darker tale on heroism and will be released in 2025. Got a few other ones here. We'll kind of go fast and loose. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Mecha Break, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, and Wucheng Fallen Feathers, which is a Souls-like action RPG. And you play as a pirate warrior, which is interesting. And then there are also some updates for live games, including Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred, The Elder Scrolls Online, Gold Road, Fallout 76. I would not expect, by the way, if you told me like 6 months ago, they're like, hey, they're gonna do another expansion for Fallout 76. It's gonna be awesome. Like, get out of here. But yeah, Fallout 76, Skyline Valley. It spans its world with Skyline Valley, a picturesque region with new locations and challenges. As well as Sea of Thieves Season 13, and I think I mentioned earlier, Starfield Shattered Space. Yeah, so tons of titles, tons of games to look forward to, with roadmaps all the way from, a couple 2 to 3 months from now into next year and beyond. There's been a lot of discourse about the showcase. A lot of folks who feel like Xbox nailed it, 10 out of 10. Absolutely one of the best showcases ever. That's kind of the discourse that's out there, right? And of course, on the flip side, people are like, it's garbage, whatever. Like, all these are going to be multi-platform anyways. For what it's worth, which is about as much as I'm charging you for it, I think that this was a great showcase. I think that, I don't know if it's 10 out of 10 best of all time, because there have definitely been showcases where we've gotten titles like the reveal for God of War 2018, or the initial reveal of Final Fantasy VII Remake, or, those big titles that kind of defined a generation of gaming, or a console.
And even the one where like they had a freaking orchestra up there, Sony.
Yeah. I mean, there have definitely been some really cool showcases and some really great moments that have set some of those other shows apart. That being said, I think in the broader context of what Xbox really needed to do with the showcase, I would consider this a major win.
Oh, huge win. I mean, when you really look at from top to bottom, like there was so much variety that there was at least one thing you could point to and go like, oh, that's gonna be dope. Maybe not everything, but at least one and probably a few. Like I have 5 that I'm really looking forward to. One being Doom: The Dark Ages.
Uh-huh.
Like that's just so silky smooth, man. Doom, and then it feels like, I don't know. Let me know if I'm on to something. It felt like a little bit of a Elden Ring vibe to it.
Mm.
Like it showed like some parries and stuff, and him using the shield. So that looks really interesting, fun, really nice kinetic movement. Like you, I was also hyped about Expedition 33.
Yeah.
MGS Delta Snake Eater. Ah, man, they recreated the intro and everything. That looks so cool.
The Delta tease was great. I really dig that. I'm looking forward to getting back into Metal Gear Solid Delta, because, like I said, 3 was probably one of my favorites. So getting back in there, with Big Boss and everything else, will be amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, also Fable, like it had a really different energy to it. It kind of starts off as like, oh, the hero story, and then it gets like really dark at the end. I really like that.
Yeah.
And to me, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl also looks really nice. Again, I'm a first person shooter fan. I enjoy those. And like this also looks just incredibly interesting. Just the fact that that dev team has been able to make that through everything they've been through, definitely makes me want to check that one out. So those are my 5 favorite things. Going back to the Doom thing, do you agree? Does it, or am I off on like that sort of Elden Ring feel to it?
No, I think I saw elements of that for sure. I think, honestly, because I'm still kind of steeped in it, I'm like inches from the goal line for Stellar Blade. And so actually I got some of those vibes with, kind of, it's sort of like the return of like the frenetic, fast paced action game, because I think we had those for a while, like with like Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox, right? That was sort of a milestone moment when it came to 3D action games, like having the speed, having the the violence and everything, like systems that games that introduced the parry system and things like that. And so, but then I think things slowed down when it got to Dark Souls, right? So when games became more Souls like, everything sort of slowed down a bit. Part of what made Bloodborne so appealing to the fan base, again, this is all just kind of in my opinion, right, is that it had that speed. It had a system that rewarded aggression and going back and like attacking the enemy quickly to get your health back and that sort of thing. And so what I think we're seeing now with even, like Lies of P and Stellar Blade and, some of these tweaks to Doom, and there's another game too, Shadow Sword or something. They showed some more gameplay of that one. I think we're getting more of those action titles that have a bit more of that speed, but not like mindless action. Like it's got the speed, but it's still incorporating those elements, those parry elements, and those like layered depths of gameplay.
Sonic Speed?
Sonic Speed? No. Well, was it Sonic Speed? The name of the game, or something else?
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah. I was like,
gotta go fast.
I'm like, yeah, I gotta go fast. Gotta go fast with the parries. No, but I think that's kind of what I'm noticing, at least like the trends, is I think the action games are speeding up, and I'm all for it. I love that. I love that feel. Like when you hit those like timed things, like in Stellar Blade, they have like the reactions, right? So you get the kind of the cues to trigger your dodge just in time or your parry just in time, and then you get to do something really awesome, kind of like a short video or a short movie, right? And yeah, so I got kind of more of that feel versus like it's not necessarily like wholly embracing like a Dark Souls, but more kind of something in the middle, which is great.
So I know we've talked a lot about all the great stuff that was there, but was there anything that you didn't like? Because there were definitely things I did not like.
I mean, again, like Call of Duty didn't really do much for me. I think uh, if I had to pick something that didn't really stand out, I would say the Dragon Age, the Veilguard like trailer that they were showing didn't really sell the game, which for me as a big Dragon Age fan, I went back and checked my hours. Like I put like 470 hours into Dragon Age the Inquisition.
That's a lot of hours.
I know. I love that game. And so, and I think there are a lot of Dragon Age fans who are eagerly anticipating the next game. So I was a bit bummed by that. But I mean, otherwise, there wasn't anything that I actively was like, no. It was just things where I'm like, like I'm not interested in it personally. Versus I thought it looked like yeah, like actively bad. Like I wanted that thing, but but no, like puts me off of it. But what about you?
No, yeah, for me, there were two games that I wanted to like, but they kill me with one thing in specific. They both do, which is South of Midnight and Mixtape. The frame rates on those. Now, I know for South of Midnight, it's very much like an aesthetic choice and thing they're going for. Mixtape, like I don't know if like that's early kind of like footage type of deal and it'll get better, or if they're also kind of choosing to go down that path. But like I just couldn't do it, man. My eyes immediately were just like, oh, I don't like this at all. My brain is not vibing with this. And like I really want to like both of those games because South of Midnight is really interesting. Setting, not typically stories that we see in games. Mixtape just has tons of really good vibes. So like I was like super hyped. I'm like, oh, these are coming to Game Pass. This is gonna be awesome. But those frame rates, like I'm not gonna be able to deal with it. Like my plan for now is just basically like watching like an edit or something where someone cuts together all of like the story portions and like just no gameplay.
Yeah, I again, I kind of can dig like the different sort of visual styles, including differing frame rates. So that didn't really stand out as much to me, but I can definitely see those like folks who like that kind of style isn't their thing. And again, maybe they really wanted to enjoy that game or get into it, and they'd heard things, they'd read synopses or whatever, and then they see it in action, they see it in movement, and they're like, oh man, like I'm not going to be able to play this. Like I'm going to get a headache. I'm going to get motion sickness. So anyway, pretty funny. Um, yeah. So all in all, great, great showcase. I think I would give it, a solid 9 out of 10. I think the main, misses again are, the the Dragon Age. Again, it's not Xbox specifically, right? But I think the Dragon Age trailer kind of missed. And when you zoom out a bit and you look at the titles they announced, many of them will be going multi-platform. And so when you kind of zoom out a bit and you're like, okay, if I'm just looking at titles that are Xbox exclusive only, then that list gets way shorter. Like, so even like Claire Obscure, like even Expedition 33, it's coming to PS5 too, right? And Game Pass, day and date, et cetera, et cetera. But, and so I think that kind of taking a step back does detract a bit from the showcase. But I still literally, Alan, like I got out of that showcase and I was like, do I need to get an Xbox? Like I
Oh
seriously,
my
because
god.
I know, because like I sold my PC. I got my Steam Deck, right? But I sold my PC. So, I kind of have to access my Game Pass through kind of like jerry rigging my Steam Deck at the moment. And so it's like, do I need to go and get like a cheap Series S or something to like play some of these
Have I
games?
got a deal for you at the end of the show, sir, in
Oh,
our deal corner?
okay. Well, let's talk about it. Anyways, but I came to that show and you know what? A lot of people on Twitter were kind of saying the same thing. They were like, hey, do I need to, go get an Xbox after all? Um, and that's when that you had a great showcase. Like when people come out of the showcase and they're like, ah, damn it, I got to go get a console now, like that, you did it, mission accomplished, because you laid a foundation, you laid a path for games that people are excited about and they want to play, and they want to do it, in your ecosystem with your console. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a solid show. I wouldn't go up to a 9. For me, it was an 8 out of 10 because there was still a lot of stuff that, from what I see, is not like super hyped about. Like, even though I've said I'm looking forward to Call of Duty coming to Game Pass, I'm going to play it. Like, it's probably going to be a 7, maybe an 8. Just again, just going back to how Call of Duty has been doing. Avowed doesn't like do anything for me.
Right.
The was it Age of Mythology? That was an Xbox exclusive, right?
I think so. Yeah. Age of
Yeah,
Mythology
yeah.
Gold.
Age
Yeah.
of Mythology doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
Like State of Decay 3, like that's been kind of a swimming in 7 series like this whole time. So I don't know why all of a sudden now I'm supposed to be like 10 out of 10 hype for it.
Mm.
Fallout, I enjoyed the show, but like I haven't felt the need to jump into the games. Starfield, I kind of bounced off of, like kind of, and I've mentioned before that like I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I want to love Starfield, but that UI just kills me.
Right.
Maybe I might go back around to it with this June update, which is supposed to bring improvements, and maybe I can get into it. But like again, once I go down, more and more and more, it's like there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't resonate at all with me, or just kind of feels kind of meh. Like Perfect Dark, they were kind of describing it as like it's gonna be, first person. It's got like kind of like a bit of Mirror's Edge, and you're gonna be investigating stuff and doing this and that. And I saw a lot of people go, "Oh, that's amazing," but to me, it sounded kind of like that sounds a bit disjointed, and it might be sort of like a jack of all trades but a master of none. Could easily just be like another Swimming in 7.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
for me, that's why I ended up at like an 8 out of 10.
yeah, I think, for Perfect Dark specifically, I think that's more of like that nostalgia pull, right? I think, they're banking on folks who like really enjoyed that game and have a lot of core kind of gaming memories with Perfect Dark, and then bringing it into right the current gen.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I have like zero history with Perfect Dark. To me, this is the first. It would be the first Perfect Dark game that I would play.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I mean, the N64 Perfect Dark was, I mean, and it's funny because I think this gets brought up a decent amount, but like people think that it's kind of like, this is a weird comparison, but like the show Mr. Bean, I don't know if you're familiar, but like you think that Mr. Bean like ran for years and years and had like hundreds of episodes of something just because like you saw bits and pieces of it when you were younger, maybe. But in reality, it only has like, 25 episodes or something ridiculous. Like every time you find out, you're like, that seems like way too few episodes for how much of my, you know, memory it contains or occupies. It's sort of the same thing with N64 games, right? Like there were a lot of really great hits on the N64, Ocarina of Time and like Smash Brothers and Perfect Dark and Mario Kart 64, etc. But in total, like the console had like 65 games or whatever, right? So Perfect Dark being one of those kind of like cornerstone N64 games, that's why. Like it has a good chunk of fans that have carried that love for the game from the N64 to now, and I think that's where they're trying to appeal to. So yeah, if you're not familiar with the original, then and I think they tried to do like another game afterwards, like a spinoff or a sequel or something, and it kind of fell flat. But yeah, I think that's what this is trying to do more. So we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, the Xbox showcase went really well. And then, of course, somebody had to step on a rake after. So there were a series of interviews that happened afterwards. And Phil Spencer.
So before we kind of move on real quick,
sure.
Do you think they're feeling any pressure over at Sony HQ?
It's interesting. Like after this showcase, a lot of people were like saying that exact thing, right? Like, oh man, Sony's sweating. Oh, they need a good showcase or whatever. And I'm like, not really, because going back to my earlier point, most of these games are going multi-platform. Like the Xbox Game Showcase just did Sony's job for them, or at least 50%, because they're showing off all these games, and people go look up these games. They're like, oh shit, Clair Obscur is coming to PS5. Done. Like, or whatever the game is, right? So I think it's not as bad, I think, as the discourse would have you think it is. That being said, I do think Sony should be taking notes in terms of like how Xbox has kind of stoked excitement for their platform and for their plans in the coming short term. Because what I really liked about the showcase is the majority of the titles are coming in the next 18 months. Like, and a good chunk of them are coming in the next 6 months, right? So, when you get those showcases that are like, here comes our next landmark title, and you see, CG trailer, you see maybe a little bit of gameplay, and they're like coming in 2027. And it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's so far away, right? But they're instead in this showcase, in the way that they've presented it, I think it's a lot easier for us to kind of fill out our calendars, right? And I think I've talked about this before, where it's like, okay, cool. In September, I'm going to play this game. In October, I'm going to play this game. In November, I'm going to play this game. In December, I'm going to play. Like, if you have a showcase that's more structured about how you get gamers interested in your platform and have a major title to look forward to for the next like 12 to 18 months, that's a win. So I think Sony could take some notes. I don't think they should be sweating nearly as much as people think they should, because a lot of the titles are coming to PS5 anyway. Do you think they should be worried?
I think depending, because like ultimately they're the ones who know what like their slate looks like, and if you're still kind of like out to beginning of 2025 and you still can't say in the next 6 months this and this and this is coming, maybe you start to sweat a little bit, just because I think there's still a lot of value to having a title show up at like your showcase and kind of be attached to your thing first, because initially that's what everyone's going to see. And sure, they'll be later like, oh, it's also coming to PS5, but the amount of people who kind of like who will actually go around to getting that information, I think, is low. They'll just remember Xbox Showcase is coming to Xbox. Tons of games coming to Game Pass, like what was it? The Expedition 33.
Yeah.
Like, Xbox can say, yo, pick up a Series S for what, $2.99, sometimes on sale for as low as $1.99. Get yourself on Game Pass and just kick your feet up and enjoy all these games on that subscription service. So it's a good chance to at least try to win over some people who are still not made, or to entice people who are still rocking their old Xbox Ones. But I do know that I think that 50% of the player base are still on PS4 for Sony. So
Mm-hmm.
like they haven't moved up to get their next gen experience. So in theory, you could lose them over to Xbox.
Yeah, and again, that's where I think the conversation about should I get an Xbox comes from, right? Like, that I am interested in potentially getting a Series S to have access to those games to take advantage of
Yeah,
my Game Pass
you
Ultimate,
bring up,
right? Yeah,
you bring up a great point, because I'm sure there are a ton of PS5 owners out there who would go at the right price. They would pick up a Series S and get Game Pass and play a lot of these games that are exclusive, like what is it? Well, not Call of Duty isn't exclusive, but
right,
instead of paying the full 60, you get Call of Duty, you get the whole catalog of stuff that's already there, and stuff like South to Midnight if the frame rate doesn't bother you. Um, so I think that there's an opportunity there with the Series S, and kind of that being someone's like second console.
right, for sure. And again, like before, when I had my PC, I was like, why do I need an Xbox? I don't need an Xbox. I'm good. And then I got my Steam Deck, and I'm like, I'm good. I've got I got my Steam library. I got my PS5, and but and this will go back to the Xbox handheld, we'll talk about in a second. But like, now I'm like, okay, how do again, I can jerry rig my Steam Deck to access Game Pass and get those games if I want to. But do I want a more streamlined experience, right? Do I want to take advantage of one of these sales, especially if they're getting ready for more hardware to come soon, and pick up a Series S at a great price and just have steady access to those titles, right? And yeah, now it's looking more tempting than ever following that showcase, which again I think speaks to the success of it. All right, so Phil Spencer did a series of interviews following the following the show and everything else, and he was asked about the Tango closure, and he said, this is from an article. Phil Spencer comments on recent Xbox studio closures. This is by Jay Birdie Shiri at Game Rant. And so basically, Phil said, he added that the decision to close a studio like Tango Gameworks isn't one he takes lightly, but it was ultimately a necessary one to keep Xbox profitable. Quote, I've said over and over, I have to run a sustainable business inside the company and grow, he stated during the interview. And that means sometimes I have to make hard decisions that, frankly, are not decisions I love, but decisions that somebody needs to go to make. Spencer went on to say that Xbox will continue to go forward and build the best business that it can. Like, still not an answer, because a lot of people have taken that and say, like, you need to run a sustainable business. Well, making games that earn critical acclaim and do well help you run a good business. No. Why did you close Tango? Like, still a non-answer. And really, it's unfortunate.
It's just a bunch of corporate speak
Yeah.
for like, I know, like, I being Phil Spencer, that it was probably not the best move in terms of what we're trying to actually accomplish sort of in his gaming space.
Mm-hmm.
But all they managed to do was probably like barely break even, and that's not good enough anymore. You got to make a decent chunk of profit to justify keeping this studio around, because now Satya Nadella is sniffing around, looking around the books, bringing in the bean counters and going, where's the money, Phil?
Right. Exactly.
And so, but obviously he's not going to throw his, his boss under the bus for that. So you get this type of answer.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, again, disappointing that Tango isn't getting the justice or the attention that it really deserves. But regardless, I hope that everyone affected lands on their feet again. It's a both things can be true, that it's a terrible time in the gaming industry as a whole with layoffs and stuff, and also that we are totally spoiled for choice and have a series of amazing games to look forward to. Like, much like in 2023, I think we're in the similar scenario here. So, next story, Xbox boss thinks that we should have a handheld too. This is from Tom Warren at The Verge. Microsoft's Xbox chief Phil Spencer has been dropping hints about a potential Xbox handheld for months now. Earlier this year, he said he was a big fan of handhelds, and after liking posts on X that mentioned the possibility of this new hardware. Now, in an interview with IGN, Spencer says, "I think we should have a handheld too." It's the biggest hint yet that Microsoft is working on an Xbox handheld, something that's been long rumored. The future for us in hardware is pretty awesome. The work the team is doing around different form factors and different ways to play, I'm incredibly excited about, said Spencer. Today was about the games, but we will have a time to come out and talk more about platform. Pressed on whether an Xbox handheld would stream games or play them locally, Spencer dropped a further hint that Microsoft is looking at a true handheld gaming device rather than something like the PlayStation Portal. He said, "I like my ROG Ally, my Lenovo Legion Go, my Steam Deck. I think being able to play games locally is really important." And going on, it says, earlier this year, Spencer talked about wanting a compact Xbox mode on a handheld gaming PC. "I want to be able to boot up into the Xbox app in a full screen, but in a compact mode. I want it to feel like the dash of my Xbox when I turn on the television, except I want it on these devices." So, another handheld potentially in the works. Does this excite you, Alan? Would you,
I'm so bummed that we didn't get it during this showcase. Like when Sarah Bond was up there talking about, they're designing the future consoles and they're always working on hardware. And she's like, "I got a new hardware to announce. Just the diskless one and like the Starry Galaxy one with 2 TB, whatever." And she ended it without giving us the handheld.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
Yeah.
Because like Phil's been talking about this for a while now. So like I think it's almost like they have to be working on one, otherwise why make, because you could just say no comment, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like it has to be working. They have to be working on it, and I'm really excited for it. I have yet to get a handheld of my own. Still saving up for PS5 Pro. That'll be kind of first order of business.
Yeah.
But a handheld is definitely something I want to add, and I'm most excited because I think that since they are they're part of Microsoft, so they can really fully integrate a solution that kind of gets rid of a lot of the pain points of using like the handheld on Windows side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited for that, and I'm really excited that he wants it to be like a local type machine, kind of like an Ally or a Steam Deck, and not a PlayStation Portal, which is super limiting.
Yeah.
So like at this point, I'm just like, just tell me when and how much, please.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I think the Steam Deck checks a lot of my boxes. For a handheld, I got my Switch, I got my Steam Deck. If I do end up investing in an Xbox Series S, I don't necessarily see myself getting an Xbox handheld, like, because I won't. I mean, like, I'll be able to get my Xbox gaming done at home, and that'll be fine for me. I got my Steam Deck set up to remote play my PS5, which is great. And I could probably maybe do the same thing for the Xbox as well if I really wanted to have a handheld experience. But I don't see myself getting a specific Xbox handheld, and I'm kind of wondering if by the time Xbox comes out with the handheld, if they'll have missed the boat. Because there have already been, 2 iterations of the Steam Deck. ROG's got one, Lenovo's got theirs. They're continuing to kind of iterate and update those form factors. If Xbox wanted to compete, I kind of wonder, like you said, maybe they should have announced it today, right? Because that could have built up some more hype and got people going, okay, you know what? I was going to get a Lenovo Legion or I was going to get a ROG Ally, but I'm going to hold off, because Microsoft's got something coming. They got something cooking. We're going to let them cook. And then we'll go get whatever they're making. But,
I mean, it could be a misdirection. They could be talking about, because like the Ally already exists. The Legion Go exists, and they're getting updates too. Both of those handhelds.
Right.
So it
And
could
they
be
can run
that
the Xbox app.
Phil is like,
Yeah.
"Yo, here's the operating system that kicks butt that can make these machines go right." Because either way, they're getting a piece of the action, right, by having Xbox integrated into those devices. Like, so it could be that he's talking about, oh, I want to, well, should we have a handheld? Like, I think we should. And he's like, well, we already do have a handheld. It's called a ROG Ally, and now it can run this awesome OS that's like custom tailored for the handheld experience.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I think it might end up being, Microsoft just kind of teasing more about the software solution. To your point, I think that actually might be a better solution, right? Like if they take a partnership with one of those developers, or at least roll out the software to make it like the Xbox app on those handheld devices, or even, well, I don't think they would do it with Steam. That would be amazing though. But to be able to deliver that software package to say, hey, gamers, we know you want to have this experience on your handheld devices. We're bringing it to you. We're not bringing you the hardware, but we're bringing you the experience via software, right? And actually, I think that would be a decent step in terms of establishing goodwill with the customer base, because again, it's not necessarily like trying to pickpocket you, not pickpocket, but you know what I mean? Like it's not like another hardware grab where it's like, oh, you want the handheld experience? Well, you got to get our Xbox handheld. But instead, like, hey, we've developed this kind of like API, like the software package that you can utilize on these various, portable PCs that now are on the market. And I think people would respond positively to that. So,
Yeah, but also I think that it could be a multi-pronged thing. It could be, hey, we're launching what we envision is the ultimate handheld experience with like OLED display, the whole 9 yards. But we're also going to make this custom version of Windows with Xbox running on it, or the Xbox app, available to any hardware manufacturer who wants to run it. Because the reason why the Steam Deck is so great is because like it is so fine tuned by Valve, and like when you think about it, these like the ROG Ally, the Legion, the Lenovo Go, like they're running full fledged, I think, pieces of Windows. Like it's got all the extra stuff that you would want a traditional computer to be able to do that you probably don't need. It's just sucking up resources that it really shouldn't be. So I think that to me would be a cool thing to have, both them coming out with their own sort of like vision of what handheld gaming should be, along with opening it up for any hardware manufacturer that wants to use it.
yeah, for sure.
Well, is there anything that they could do to like maybe go, you know what, I'm going to sell the Steam Deck and get that Xbox handheld?
No, I mean, it would be very difficult. It would be very difficult. I think I would need, an OLED screen at a competitive price would probably help. Um, but like I've already invested updating the storage on my Steam Deck to a terabyte, and it's kind of like the ecosystem thing, right? So like if the handheld that Microsoft is offering, you know, if it can't support Steam in that, because I love the Steam OS, like I think it looks really clean. So if it can't support that kind of like clean user interface, then I don't know if I would want to make the leap. It would take a lot. It would take a lot.
Gotcha.
But anyway, we've still got tons to do, so we're gonna try to get through these without taking super long. Okay, we've got the Summer Game Fest. Also, tons of announcements for the Summer Game Fest, even though Keeley told you to lower your expectations, which was interesting. We got the Lego Horizon Adventures. So we got a new Horizon Zero Dawn game in the Lego world where you can play as Aloy from the Horizon series and transform the robotic wastelands into a Lego paradise. It's arriving holiday 2024, so it's going to be one of those great, it's going to be on the wish list for a lot of kids for Christmas, family friendly and all that. So that's a good one to grab. We got No More Room in Hell 2, Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, Cuff Bust, which is a co-op game where you escape the prison in the form of a cute bear. So that's something. Star Wars Outlaws, which is going to had more shown off in the Ubisoft showcase, which we'll talk about more in a second. Neva, which is from Nomada Studio, the creator of Grease, came next. And in this game, you play as a woman who bonds with a wolf cub and then goes on a journey across a magical world. And it looks stunning. Like, if you've played Grease, like if you kind of know those games, like this looks beautiful. So really excited about that. All right, Civ nerds, Civilization got leaked as well. So if you are big on the Civilization franchise, Civilization 7 is coming. So look forward to that. Black Myth Wukong, new action RPG, continuation of the Wukong series that came out, I think now a couple years ago. That I think it originally landed on Game Pass, another kind of Soulsborne title. Asgard's Wrath 2 VR. So that came out and it's already out. Like it was like I think it was like a shadow drop. Only Human, Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2. More sneak peeks at Metaphor ReFantazio, which is from the creators of Persona 3, 4, and 5. It'll be coming out on October 11th. And definitely it has that traditional Persona style to it in the menus and the combat, etc. Batman Arkham Shadow, which is going to be on the MetaQuest 3 VR, at which point the entire audience went, oh. If you actually watch the showcase, it's pretty wild when how they react to it being shown off as being on a VR set.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 6, which will be coming. Next installment in the Street Fighter series took the stage with an anime-style opening to introduce its Year 2 roster. So there will be some additional characters added to the roster. Tears of Metal, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Delta Force Hawk Ops. And this one really stood out to me. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. This is like a retro arcade style game with the Power Rangers. It looks very much like the classic X-Men and Simpsons games, but with Power Rangers, and it looks awesome. Did you ever play those at the arcade, Alan? Like, did you know ever drop quarters into like the X-Men or the Simpsons or any of those like kind of larger arcade titles?
I only played the home console version. I never played the arcade ones.
Ah, dang, missed out. We need to invest in the 6-player X-Men arcade cabinet. Got to find that one day. We got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Slitterhead, which is from the creator of Silent Hill and Forbidden Siren. That one's coming out in November. And Killer Bean. In Killer Bean, you're playing as a bean who used to be an assassin who worked for the Shadow Agency. It's a third-person roguelite shooter, and you're actually playing as like a bean, like coffee bean or something. But the third-person action gameplay looks ridiculous. Like it's like Max Payne type gameplay, and it looks super fun. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, so there were a handful of other titles as well, but really nothing knocked it out of the park.
It was meh.
It was a solid 6 to 7. And yeah, so there were just a ton of titles, nothing that really, grabbed anybody's attention. And yeah, so that was a Summer Game Fest. I think out of everything here, the Rita Rewind, and Phantom Blade Zero, that was it. Phantom Blade Zero is the title where it has that like fast-paced sword play gameplay, and it looked really cool. Very Ninja Gaiden-esque. So looking forward to seeing more from that game.
How mad do you think Keely is that he couldn't pry away like at least 2 of those announcements from Xbox?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. I'm still baffled that he like came out and was like lower your expectations, but I think I mean there are just so many different ways that he could have approached it. I think it's fine to get out and be like, hey, the hype levels for this are really high, and we love that. We love that you're so excited for Summer Game Fest. And if you're looking for these sorts of titles, man, you're going to eat so good, right? But if you're looking for these kinds of titles, well, we're going to leave it to our partners and our like there's some way, that's when I want some of that marketing jargon to come in, right? Like use some of that corporate speak to get the message across without saying like lower your standards, because shortly after that, the pricing for the Summer Game Fest trailer costs came out, and
Oh, that was nuts.
and so people were like, if I paid $250,000 to show my trailer at a game show, and Keeley said lower your expectations, I'd be pissed. So anyway, I think that could have been handled a little bit better. So yeah, that's everything at the Game Fest. Was there anything from the Summer Game Fest that stood out to you from those titles when you were like kind of looking through the?
Absolutely not.
No, nothing jumped out at you. Oh man, okay. And with that, our June 10th episode was tragically cut short. So let's fast forward to the week of June 17th. But besides going dark for a few hours last week, Alan, how has your week been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. Never fun to kind of just randomly lose power like that. Well, there was a storm in the area, which did not help. But the last week was good. Sunday, last night, it was especially good because season 2 of House of the Dragon premiered. And man, it was a great episode. I don't want to get too spoilery, but you can feel that they're definitely picking up on the momentum from that they kind of set up last season, especially the end of like what happened at that season and into this one. I really enjoy watching after the episode where they kind of give like a behind the scenes type of like deep dive, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we want to do this and this," and I'm excited. They're like, "Hey, yeah, the first season was a little bit slower because it's kind of setting up everything that's going to happen in this season." So,
How long? How long are those like behind the scenes things they show at the end? Are they like 5 minute little featurette things, or are they like longer?
They can be between 8 and 10 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah. You mostly get sort of like the directors and the producers, and occasionally the actors will kind of give some of insight of what was going on. But yeah, like it was just an incredibly strong start. I'm hoping that they can keep it up for the rest of the season. But it's looking good so far.
Was it would maybe it's all of the above, but what stood out? Was it like the performances? Was it like the set pieces? Were there like good graphics, or aesthetics and visuals? Like, what were some of the things that helped this premiere kind of stand out? The pacing, like what do you think were maybe top one or two elements that really made you say, yeah, this is a great kickoff to the season?
So for me, like it just feels good to be back in this world. They always do an incredibly good job with the costumes that the actors are wearing, the sets, the music is always just dope. And last night it was really well paced. You're kind of seeing things kind of kick off because the season 1 ends in a very contentious state, so to speak. And so now one side is like, we gotta respond, but the response does not quote go quite the way you expect. And it's just like, holy smokes, that like I just did not see that coming at all. I thought something else was gonna happen. I thought that it would be just a botched attempt. Like they would go, "Oh, let's go do this thing, we're gonna get him back," and then it would fail because like the character that they were supposed to be targeting is fairly well skilled at defending themselves. So I'm like,
Sure,
this is
sure.
gonna fail. There's no way they're gonna do this thing.
Yeah.
But
It's
again,
pans out
another
differently than
thing
expected.
presented itself,
Yeah,
and then it's just like, oh, okay, let's go. This
okay.
season is about to just absolutely just it's going on a tear from here on out.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I haven't really been into Game of Thrones in a while, like since like season 6 of the previous series. But I've heard good things about House of the Dragon, so I might have to wade into the waters of Max and check it out again, just to kind of steep myself in that world again. While we all, of course, wait for the next book to come out, which should arrive sometime between the release of the PlayStation 6 and 7.
No,
So
like I understand a lot of people kind of like fall off around 6 or 7, or even 8, or if they go through all the way through it, they're not happy with it. But I think that House of the Dragon is sort of like a return to form of like what you want out of that world. So I strongly recommend you check it out, knowing again that the season 1 is very much about setting the table for what's coming in this season.
good to know. Good to know. Cool. Well, I've been watching a bunch of TV. I've been playing a lot of video games. So I put a kibosh on Stellar Blade this past weekend, which was awesome. Not this past weekend, last like mid last week or so, which was awesome. Really enjoyed my time with it. I kind of hit a skill, not a skill wall necessarily, but the difficulty of the bosses increased exponentially with the second to last boss. I'm not going to spoil it for people out there who might be wanting to play the game. Although I guess I did spoil it if you follow our Twitter. But anyway, that boss, oh my god, I was like, oh, I got this. I have my usual strategy. I got my parries down, etc. And they were like, haha, that's funny, and they kicked my butt like I want to say like 15 to 18 times before I was like, okay, like I had to stop for the night and then come back to the next day, gave it a few more attempts, and I got it. So yeah, overall, and people were saying online like, oh, you think that's bad? Like wait until the final boss. But then I fought the final boss and I was like, this guy is way easier. Like I would have rather fought this guy twice than fight the second to last boss and then this guy. So so yeah, that was good. Always good when you roll credits on a game. Feels good to put another one under my belt. If you missed my review, Stellar Blade, solid 8 out of 10. Combat is frenetic and amazing, but too much. Some of the platforming can get tedious and frustrating, and also the ending feels a bit rushed. But all that aside, really fun game. I had a great time with it.
So
Now, oh, go ahead.
now that it feels like kind of we're hitting a bit of a slower point of the year. Do you feel that's accurate?
Ye- mm, the problem is Shadow of the Earth Tree is arriving on Friday.
You're right. Okay. Okay. I forgot. Yeah, I'm not like the Elden Ring person. I haven't bought it, haven't played it. So,
Oh, okay, okay,
you
okay.
know.
Yeah, no, this is a this is a holiday coming up. I took the day off for it, like I did when Rebirth came out. So, and that was what was next on my list with gaming, was doing some Elden Ring prep. So basically, I I had already beaten the necessary boss for it, and there was some discourse online because there's a certain boss you have to beat, and only like 38% of players had beaten them so far. So, um, like 60% of the Elden Ring population effectively can't access the DLC until they beat this boss. So I was ahead of the curve there. I'm part of that 38%. Um, but I did want to level my tune up a little bit. I was a level 120, so I went to a pretty popular leveling area and ground out another 30 levels. So I'm level 150, and parked my character at the proper area for the DLC, and so I can fire it up on Friday and go straight into the content. So,
And are
um,
you doing this on the Steam Deck?
no, I'm doing this on my PS5.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, my PS5. So I've been doing that. I did that, and then I also got into Unicorn Overlord. So I maxed out the demo, which was about 6 hours, and then spent a little bit more time with it when it came out. But then I put it down to do some Stellar Blade and other stuff. But I'm back in Unicorn Overlord, and I'm having a great time with that game as well. It's really scratching that tactical RPG itch, and I love Vanillaware and will throw money at anything they put out. So um, that's been what I've been up to the last week, basically in gaming, and yeah, it's been a great time.
I apologize, dear listeners. I was trying to steer him back into the world of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh,
It
that's
seems
right.
like
No, no. I mean, okay, so I got Shadow of the Earth Tree, which I'll probably end up spending like 3 to 4 weeks in. I would guess. And then it'll be a bit quieter so I can I'll still be playing some Unicorn Overlord, but getting back into GTA 5, and then also going back to some of my backlog, like Jedi Survivor and that sort of thing. I've got some other kind of like shorter action games on my list that I want to knock out. So it's on the to-do list. But anyways, we also have some news on this to-do list, including Nintendo Direct coming tomorrow. This is from IGN's Taylor Lyles. Nintendo Direct announced for tomorrow with 40 minutes of Switch games coming out later this year. Nintendo has finally provided a date and time for its June Direct, which is set for Tuesday, June 18th at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, bright and early. The company announced that it would hold a digital showcase in June of last month. Nintendo also tempered expectations, stating that this upcoming showcase would focus on games headed to its hybrid game console in the latter half of this year. Additionally, the showcase was previously confirmed not to include any reveal of the console rumored to succeed the Nintendo Switch. While we do not know what is on the Switch slate for the second half of the year, at the last Nintendo Direct, some games we know confirmed to release on Switch in 2025 included Pokemon Legends Z-A, Professor Layton, and the New World of Steam. Additionally, Retro Studios is currently working on Metroid Prime 4, which has not had any further updates since its initial reveal at E3 7 years ago. Good God. Of course, there will be some third-party announcements at the Direct, inking a 10-year deal. Microsoft inked a 10-year deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to the Switch. Some theorize the first Call of Duty games may be revealed at the digital showcase. Meanwhile, fans of the House of the Dead franchise speculate a remake of the second game may appear, etc., etc. So, what do we think is coming tomorrow? Alan, I'm interested to hear your thoughts first, and then I have a couple guesses.
So, like, I genuinely have no idea what they could bring. They'll probably have lots of a solid slate of indies. Like, indies have really done well on that platform. But I just don't know what they're gonna bring out, like, Nintendo wise, because surely they're like all hands on deck for that Switch 2, and they're not gonna release any sort of big titles that they want to launch with the Switch 2. It just doesn't make any sense. So third party wise, like, the Switch is a bit of a blind spot for me. Like, I don't know if what any big titles are coming. Now what I would like to see again, I would like to them to get to some of those titles that have kind of been locked away on the Wii U and on other former Nintendo platforms, like Wind Waker HD. That would be incredible on the Switch. I'd love to have that on the Switch. I think Twilight Princess has also been not ported over yet, and so I think you can only play it on the Wii and the GameCube when they kind of did that sort of dual release way back when. So that's what I would like to see. What we will see, I have no idea, other than like a strong lineup of indies.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to see mostly indies for the back half of the year. I think they do need to have something. They need to really have something strong in this showcase to help hold over Switch fans into the release of the new hardware, right? Like, we know it's not going to be this year. It's going to be next year. We've got another 9 months or so to go, maybe even a little bit longer, right? Before that Switch 2 is in our hands. And so we need something strong. Like, we need a strong IP. And that's why I'm hopeful that we're going to get that Metroid Prime 4 release date. That's my number one ask for tomorrow is like, let's get that Metroid Prime 4 release date so we know what to expect.
That's it though. We're not even gonna get like a snippet of gameplay or like a CGI, like a hype trailer or anything.
I mean, I'll take whatever they want to give me, but if all they do tomorrow is show the Metroid Prime 4 logo and a date underneath, I'll be happy. Like, I'm fine with that. I think we'll get more than that. If they do show it, I think we will get more. I think we'll get maybe a trailer or maybe a little bit of gameplay. I think they would give it its own direct. Obviously they're going to give it its own direct when the time comes, because this has been like one of the most hyped titles like for the Switch ever. So ultimately it's going to have its own showcase, but in the short term, I think, best case scenario, we'll get it like a hype trailer, I think.
I don't know. I think we don't see it at all. I think they want to hold that bad boy for the like event where they release this. Where they're gonna, here's a Switch 2. Here's what it is.
It's been
They want
7
maximum
years.
hype ahead on that Switch 2. They don't want any little drop off in sales.
I don't think
They're
they're going to have a
holding.
drop
That's
off
a
if they
smart
make
move.
the if
That's
they
a
make the
smart move.
Prime 4, if they make Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch. If they make it the last title for the Switch, then they don't have to worry about the sales dropping off.
No, I
That's
mean
what I
like
think.
they want the Switch 2 hardware sales to pop off. So that's why I think they're gonna go, no, this is gonna be our system seller at the start. Is having Metroid Prime 4. Like you said, it's so hyped the within the Nintendo faithful, and then you also have a very hardcore ardent Metroid Prime community that's gonna just never shut up about it. They're gonna hold that. Like that's a smart move in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, does Metroid? I think this conversation has come up before too. Does Metroid Prime sell Switches? Right? Or or does a title like Animal Crossing sell Switches? You know what I mean? Like, what's the major IP that they would put on the Switch to get a deal? And maybe it's Metroid. You know, maybe you're right.
I think that the
But
hype has overtaken what you would traditionally expect from it.
mm,
And remember, when Metroid Prime Remaster came out, like it even came a while where people couldn't find like physical copies at the store.
right,
Like it
right.
was nuts. So I think that traditionally you're right. Like Metroid Prime would not is not going to be like, oh yeah, this is why I'm buying, Switch 2. Animal Crossing 100% is like there are tons of Animal Crossing fans. I was like, I think a lot of them like that's the only thing they even buy.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like some Call of Duty players, all they just play just Call of Duty on their PlayStation or Xbox. But I think that in this case, with this specific title, as long as they've been released, really, like in terms of like what that we know that it exists, and then it got canceled, it got moved over to that team in Austin, I think, the ones who did
Mhm.
the original Metroid
Retro
Prime.
Studios? Or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
they're
That's
doing
the one. So like coming in here it is looking amazing on a brand new hardware. Look at all the cool stuff that devs can do now. They've got this extra Switch 2 power with DLSS and all this cool stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but I think they can just hold it for that. Like, can you imagine like a launch lineup of like, here's Metroid Prime, here's the new follow up to was it Odyssey? Yeah, Mario Odyssey.
Yeah,
Like a
another 3D
legit big
Mario,
time
yeah.
Like Mario. Like, I'm sure they'll do like a stagger. They're not going to give you all in day one, but like like to really get people like, oh, I need to go take this OLED Switch and give up the OLED for the better thing.
Which is crazy. I still think it's nuts that they are not doing OLED on the Switch too. Like, I think that's crazy. But
I know, like you could have two SKUs. That's not like a. I got. What? Here's the thing: are they even going to give us a glass screen on this, or are they going to give us a plastic screen again?
hmm, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Nintendo is all about making it affordable, right? Like they know that their customer base, aka parents with kids and also longtime Nintendo faithful, have in their mind that like $250 to $300 range is where their Switch kind of lives. You know what I mean? Um, so maybe they're just a little anxious about upping the material costs and that sort of thing to put out a $400 or $500 Switch.
They're anxious about those margins, bro. Like they want to be the Apple of like
Well,
the
yeah,
hardware side of
yeah,
things.
that's where the money is, man. The money's in the margins. But anyway, I don't know. I'm still kind of flabbergasted that there's no OLED, but we'll see. Again, maybe there's two SKUs. Maybe that'll be something. Maybe that's part of what they're trying to iron out before the announcement, right? Is like, okay, we've done some market research and we found that we really do need to make the investment in the OLED screens. Maybe they need to play catch up on the hardware. Like, I don't know.
Or they just want you to double dip midway through the cycle like they did
God,
last time.
I did, and they know we will too, because I did, because I'm a freaking sucker, and I'll do it again. Um, so, yeah, Metroid Prime 4 release date is what I'm looking for. Some more RPG remasters as well, like some Dragon Quest, some that sort of thing. But particularly, I'm interested to see if Team Asano comes out to announce their next project. So those are the folks who did, the Bravely series, and they did, Triangle Strategy, and Octopath Traveler, and that sort of thing. So they're supposed to have a pretty big announcement this year. I'm wondering if they've got something awesome. Of course, I'm always going to hope against hope that a Chrono Trigger remaster is coming, um, in the 2.5D style, like put it right into my veins. Like that would be a killer title for the holiday. Um,
Oh,
but
they'll make some serious margins on that ultra mega collector's edition, huh?
oh, I'd buy it. $400, sure, give it to me. Um, but yeah, I think that could be another interesting one too. But I think more likely, we'll see. Like you said, we'll see a decent slate of indie games, um, to fill out the back half of the year, early part of next year, and I'm hoping that we'll get some IP teases from like some of the uh, bigger properties to look forward to. But
Hit us out of left field. Hit us with like the last story from the
yeah,
Nintendo Wii.
yeah, hit us with some new Wii Sports or something else weird. Like hit us with something odd. Um, that would be that'd be cool. Um, okay. Moving on to yeah, you already said your stuff. Okay, so moving on to the next story. Bethesda wants to release yearly story updates for Starfield. Uh, this is from Wesleyan Poole at IGN. Bethesda has insisted it's committed to supporting Starfield and confirmed at least one other story expansion will release following this year's Shattered Space. In an interview with YouTube channel Mr. Matty Plays, Bethesda Game Studios' Todd Howard said the developer is aiming to release an annual story expansion for hopefully a very long time. Sci-fi RPG Starfield launched in September 2023 as Bethesda's first brand new intellectual property in years, and its first mainline single-player game since Microsoft bought parent company ZeniMax Media in March 2021. IGN's review returned to 7 out of 10. We said it had a lot of forces working against it, but eventually the allure of its expansive role-playing quests and respectable combat make its gravitational pull difficult to resist. Howard said Starfield has now seen 14 million players following its launch on PC, Xbox Series X and S, straight to Xbox subscription service Game Pass, although Bethesda has yet to announce a sales figure. During the interview, Mr. Matty Plays asked Howard if it's Bethesda's intention to continue to release the annual story expansions, and Howard replied, more or less, yeah. How long that continues, hopefully a very long time, but we're planning for the one after this, so there will be another one. He didn't sound super stoked. Like when you read the answer, like it definitely sounds a lot more tempered than, like, yeah, we're going to make more content for this. It's like, yeah, like we got one planned
There's
for
another
next
one,
year. There's
Yeah.
another one coming. Like, we'll see if you like it. And then we'll probably walk away from it. Like, uh, I just thought that was funny because, you read the article, you read the headline, and it's like, oh, like they got more stuff coming. And it's like, yeah, barely. Um,
No, yeah, I can see like why they would want to, because I mean they put in a ton of money and time into Starfield. That's just a massive world, whether you love it or not. But at the end of the day, like I know they tout the 14 million players, but I wonder how, I guess, like committed those players are. Like how much time are they really like spending in that world and wanting to go back into it to make it worth it to continue to churn out this DLC. Um, but yeah, like again, like you said, they're not. He doesn't sound exactly ecstatic to be like, yeah, like this is awesome. We're gonna be killing it for at least another 10 years. But I do know that like the leadership there, like, is gonna try to make it happen. I just don't know if there's enough people playing and ultimately buying the DLC to make it worth it.
right, right. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I'm tempted to get back into it with my Game Pass subscription and everything else, but in the quieter part of the year, if Nintendo doesn't load the back half of the year with a bunch of stuff, that might be on my radar to get back into. And I do appreciate their commitment to the world, um, of Starfield and everything else. So we'll see. I think they're going to start getting very busy with Elder Scrolls 6 as well. I mean, that's been in development. I think that also got announced in 2017, right? Like, so we know that they are continually doing work on that property and that title. So that could also explain why Todd Howard isn't necessarily like, oh yeah, like we're going to put so much energy and effort into Starfield. It's like, well, we don't have a ton of bandwidth. We only have enough really to, like release the updates that we planned for Starfield. And unless it really takes off, we're gonna pivot a lot of our resources to start to Elder
Yeah, I think that
Scrolls
the
6.
Shattered Space expansion is gonna be like a big like point for the game of like whether or not they're really like committed to making annual story like content. Like
Right. Yeah.
if it can be get people excited and come back in and see all the improvements that they've made to the game in general, and like, oh whoa, hang on a second, this is really cool as hell. Like they could turn it around with that. So I think that'll be sort of telling to informative as to whether they're actually gonna keep going with it or not.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Last story. Embracer shuts down developer of the new Alone in the Dark. This is from Marcus Stewart at Game Informer. Embracer has shut down Pieces Interactive, the developer of the Alone in the Dark reimagining that arrived earlier this year. The studio is the latest to be closed by the troubled company over the last 10 months. Pieces Interactive website now only features a graphic listing 2007 to 2024. Thanks for playing with us, and a short blurb detailing its history. Pieces Interactive released over 10 titles on PC, console, and mobile since 2007. Both are own concepts such as Puzzlegeddon, Fret Nice, Leviathan Warships, RoboSurf, and Kill to Collect, as well as work for hire titles like Magicka 2 and several DLCs for Magicka. Our client list included Paradox Interactive, Koei Tecmo, Arrowhead Game Studios, Koch Media, and Race Room Entertainment. In 2007, Pieces Interactive were acquired by Embracer Group after working with the expansion for Titan Quest Ragnarok, and third expansion for Titan Quest Atlantis. Our last release was the reimagining of Alone in the Dark. Alone in the Dark relaunched on March 20th to mixed reviews, currently sitting at 63 on Metacritic. Starred Jodie Comer and David Harbour, who lent their voices and likenesses in a third-person reimagining of the 1992 survival horror classic. And it kind of closed out talking about how after the $2 billion deal fell through, Embracer has done a massive restructuring and had to close a bunch of studios and blah, blah, blah. So, yep, business as usual. I mean, I'm torn here because the studio put out a bad game, right? Like the studio put out a game. It didn't do well. It seemed like kind of a niche studio to begin with. And so are we super surprised that they got
Yeah,
closed?
like I just don't know
No.
enough about the studio and that release to really like have a feeling one way or the other. My only question would be like, was it because they just did a bad job porting it, or was it like the game was not great to begin with and it was just a bad call that Embracer was like, yeah, bring back this one IP that we have, but
Yeah.
they just did the best that they could with what they had. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say for sure, but of course, in this economy, it's tough to see game studios shutting down regardless. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of a different story than like Microsoft and Tango, for example, where they release a critically acclaimed title and everybody loves it, and then all of a sudden they're like, nope, you're done. Like that's a little bit more perplexing. Obviously, it causes a lot more frustration. Whereas this one, it's like, okay, niche studio, niche title, released to barely over 60s overall Metacritic. Like, I think that makes sense. But
Yeah.
um, okay, that's all that we have for our news today. Again, we're going to combine this one with this is coming on the tail end of our last week's episode, so it's still going to be a bit of a longer one. Thank you for making it this far. Do we have any deals this week, Alan? Anything you want to call out for our listeners?
I mean, I don't know if I can call it a deal anymore. You might argue with that, but like Armored Core 6, still $30 at most places. If you visit Woot, which is like a subsidiary of Amazon, I believe you can get 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for $34.99. I mean, they had a pretty solid showing, so not a bad time to kind of maybe if you have the means to do so to kind of load up on a bunch of Game Pass Ultimate and maybe get yourself 2-3 years worth of Game Pass before any most likely inevitable price hikes.
Cool. I am still considering getting an Xbox. Um, I I'm not sure if I want to just go Series S digital just for my Game Pass or go in on the Series X for the performance. Um, I don't know. I can't make up my mind. Can you help me, Alan? Can you help me make my mind up on this or no?
Well, I have a Series X, and I love it. I would not go like I wouldn't exchange if someone was like, "Oh yeah, do you want to like trade out this for this, and we'll give you like the cash difference?" I'm like, "No, I'm keeping the X," especially because like just keep in mind that the S has struggled at times. Like remember Baldur's Gate 3, like it
Yeah,
took a while
that's
for
what
that
I
to
was kind of thinking
happen.
about too. I know there are some titles that it really struggled with, so I'm like, do I want to just invest the extra to have a console I know can
I
keep
think
up?
it's worth it to invest the extra. And man, that obviously it's like value wise, it's not like the greatest, but like that special edition, like I think it's called Galaxy Black.
Oh yeah,
It looks so sick.
I'm not. I'm yeah. I saw that. It looks awesome. I'm not going to invest in that. I think I'm going to look
Yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to troll around eBay or OfferUp and see if I can find a used Series X that somebody's looking to offload. Because I've got at this point now, I think a year and a half of prepaid Game Pass Ultimate to take advantage of. Um, so just want to make sure that I'm getting my money's worth out of those subscriptions and the games that are coming out. Like Claire, the Expedition 33 that got teased that we talked about on our last episode and that sort of thing.
You're gonna want the X for that. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. All
So
right.
like
Anyway, yeah.
my word of advice would be keep an eye on the man of the people, Wario 64.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes he posts when Woot, again the subsidiary of Amazon, has refurbished Xboxes for as low as $202. So and that's refurb like from Microsoft. You're not getting like a user, so you're getting like a good unit.
Okay. Cool. I will keep an eye on that. I'm looking for a deal. I'm not in a rush to get one. I'm not looking to go out and pay full MSRP. I'm no sucker. But I think I'm in the market for one, and I'm going to keep an eye out for a Series X at a good deal.
No, like a refurb for 202 is a crazy good deal.
Yeah, that sounds like a great deal. Yeah, 202. I jump on it today. So I'll keep an eye on Woot for that. But yeah, until next time, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
Keep gaming, everybody.
See ya.